All right, now I presume you're all book lovers because I think they scan you at the door here. You know, that if you get a retinal thing and if there's not a line of 11-point type on your retina, then you're tossed out. So we're among friends, and I don't have to tell you what this is. This is a book. Yay, this is a very good book. It won a prize on Monday night and you should all rush out and buy at least 3 copies. It's called Traitor. These are books too. These are my toys. And these are all electronic readers. And we can call them books because they're devices for reading long-form narrative. They're not very popular here at the moment. You can't get electronic books all that easily in Australia at the moment, although you can get some. But in the US, their sales of ebooks are probably doubling every 12 months in the US at the moment. I think in January the figures were that sales of electronic books had outstripped sales of mass market paperbacks. So, you know, if you're not an ebook reader now, you probably will be in a couple of years. These aren't going anywhere for a while yet, you know. They're beautiful, we love them. Anyone over about 35 or 40 probably can't read very easily on anything but one of these. That's perhaps pessimistic. They do what they do really well, and apparently, yes, they smell good as well. However, the information to weight ratio is shocking. This is lighter than this, and I can't actually remember how many books it holds, but it's somewhere around 50 or 60 or something like that. So at some stage, if you're not an ebook reader now, you're going to find one of these factors compelling enough that you can get used to the different form factor. Or you'll get an iPad and, you know, because you want to play Angry Birds on a big screen, and you'll find that you can read on that too. And then you'll be part of the ebooks upward curve, or you won't, and you'll be part of a dwindling minority. So, you know, folks, this is coming. Big changes are coming in how we read. Not necessarily in what we read, because the functioning of devices like these is really quite rudimentary. What you read on these is the same as what you read in this. It's one page after another of long-form narrative or short-form, if that's what you put on it. And that's not going to change. These aren't going anywhere. You know, the long-form narrative isn't going anywhere because we love it. You know, we are really, particularly those of us who've grown up with reading, are really in love with the way that the written word plays in the human imagination. And we're going to continue to read. I think in the long term, we are an ageing demographic. I think, I grew up in a household with a black and white television where there was probably 1 hour of stuff I wanted to watch every day. If I wanted to entertain myself, I was reading. There was no online media, there was no gaming, there was no DVDs, there was none of any of that. And, you know, obviously things are different for young people today. They've got online communities and they've got different habits of engagement with writing as well. I think over the long haul, what we read will be changed by the way people prefer interactive forms of writing and reading online these days, but that's going to take a long time to happen. It's not going to happen tomorrow. In the short term, the publishing industry and the book-selling industry have challenges based on changes in more in the way we buy and sell and use books. You know, Amazon have pushed electronic book retailing by setting a very, very low price. Most publishers look at that price and think, how the hell do they do that? We can't produce, even if we don't print a book, we can't produce a book for that price. But that's the price that consumers expect. That's what's setting the trends. And there's going to be difficulties around those kinds of retailing issues going into the future. They'll be fixed. Those short-term challenges will be overcome, but what we can say is that the industry at the moment is in a stage of change and a stage of uncertainty. Now, That came home to me quite forcefully. I think it was a couple of weeks ago when I read the announcement that Fairfax were going to start outsourcing their sub-editing. They were going to sack or whatever mechanism they use to not have sub-editors anymore. They're going to get rid of all their in-house sub-editors and outsource it. Now, newspapers are really, really differently formulated in a business way from book publishing. There's no particular analogy to be made there. And newspaper sub-editors don't do the same job as book editors. But the relevant points to be made there, and without wishing to offer any disrespect to Pagemasters, who are the outfit that are going to be doing the outsourced work, I'm sure they're staffed by, extremely highly skilled and dedicated people. I don't mean any disrespect to them. But that's not why Fairfax is moving their sub-editing there. They're doing that to save money. And it does betray a couple of attitudes. This is about saving money, and if it's not at the expense of quality, then that's just a happy accident. That's not, what the aim of the game is. In the past, getting the paper out went hand in hand with getting it right, and it appears to me that that attitude is probably being undermined in this process. The message is that the work is neither crucially important nor particularly skilled, I would suggest. And it also is a move that fails to understand the importance of any writer, of having somebody else look at your work and having them look at it right in the spot on what's happening. And even worse, they're betting no one will notice if there's a change in quality, and if we do, we won't care. Which, personally offends me. All right, that's newspapers, and I offer my sympathies to the sub-editing fraternity. The problem, I think, that the newspaper folks share with us in book publishing is that their trade is about things you can't see. It's an invisible job. It's about not having mistakes of fact or wrong figures or misspellings or nonsense grammar or missing words or random punctuation or little things like defamation suits. It's about standards. It's about knowing what's right and getting things right. And that's really, really valuable. But when you've got it, you can't see it. And when it's gone, it's too late. So, uncertain era. And when I sort of express uncertainty about possible implications for the future of the job we do in book publishing, people go, oh, no, you'll be okay, content is king. Whatever the changes are around the way that books are made and purveyed, people will still need that content. But I think what the Fairfax example shows is that how people look at the quality of content and what stages you go through to make content are not necessarily sacrosanct. And so I feel that this is a fairly bad time, as much as I love it, to be performing a role that's both invisible and unquantifiable. Which is why, really, I'm here today to sort of let you not know what we do in book editing. I'm here in a kind of a PR capacity. And one of the first roles that we perform, and one for which we are, if the internet is anything to go by, widely hated, is acquisition and gatekeeping. Writing a book is really hard. Most people who try to do it don't get it right. Most people who attempt to write a book, and God love them, I completely admire anyone who goes to that much work, but most of them will not have produced something that any business feels it can publish successfully. So if that's everywhere available, the person who wants to read a book is swamped. You know that. You know what the internet's like. If you Google good book, you're not going to get any useful information. Whereas if you go to readings, or even Amazon, you're going to get information and advice about what a good book might be for your particular mood at this particular time. And you need that. Well, publishers perform that role in a kind of preemptive way. We're doing the first or second cut. Literary agents do that as well, and they do a lot of editorial work as well. So we're talent spotting, we're giving an imprimatur, we're giving the consumer information, we're keeping choice manageable, and on our good days I think we're matching particular books to the pools of readers who are really, really going to appreciate them. So in that way I feel like we're promoting love in the world of reading. And as I say, some people really hate us for that. They say, what right have you got, to say this is worth reading, this is not worth reading, this is good, this is bad, this deserves to live, this deserves to die. But at least nature abhors a vacuum in the matter of gatekeeping. So somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to tell you what's good or bad. And I don't think the person who makes a financial investment in improving and producing and promoting that work is necessarily the worst placed to do so. We've acquired a book. We love it. It has immense promise, or it has immense polish and accomplishment, or it has all of these things. But is it the very most satisfying read that it can possibly be? The first work of the editor is to work out what can and should be done, what can and should be suggested to an author to do, which is really the main point, to get this work into the best shape for the largest potential number of readers. And we look at things like beginnings and endings. Are beginnings beguiling? Are they alienating? Are they too drawn out? Are they too in your face? We look at... look, I should say at this point that I work mainly in fiction and in non-fiction editing. What I'm going to say really pertains in a very particular sense to those sorts of forms of stuff, which is in a way kind of the heartland of what people think of when they think of book publishing. But that's not to discount the work of my colleagues in fields like illustrated books and academic texts and educational publishing, who I would assume quite strongly have analogous issues that don't play out in quite the same way. We look at the narrative arc of a piece. Is everything happening in the right order for maximum satisfaction? If you've got a mystery there, is the mystery sustained? Are the right clues dropped at the right places? Is it all working as it should in shape? Are there unnecessary elements? A lot of really, really good books can be improved by taking out 10,000 words. And we say that glibly, this will be a better book if we take out 10,000 words. But in fact, you've got to pick the right 10,000. It's not just a matter of lopping a chunk off the end, although that can work. And we talk about structural editing, and people assume that that's sort of moving chunks of things around, deleting, suggesting additions, putting the bloke with the moustache in the first scene so we know who he is. And that indeed is the case, but speaking personally, I do a lot of structural work in a very close way because it concerns things like dialogue, which has to evoke a real person. A dialogue has to be something you can hear in your head, and that can be a matter of moving a word or changing a word or shortening a word. Drawing character, if you apply the word giggle to anyone over the age of 10 years, they're immediately either idiotic or sort of effeminately evil. Giggle is not a word you can use loosely in fiction. So it's small work, but it's part of a bigger picture. It's part of making a satisfying reading experience. And that's an extremely important part of the editorial process. And after that, after we feel like we've got a work that's roughly in the right sort of size and shape and mood, we proceed to copy editing and proofreading. And that's when we get to work on all those things that annoy people so strenuously, like punctuation and grammar, which must be either correct or incorrect in the correct way. And spelling and capitalisation, and are the numbers all done in exactly the same kind of way so that it doesn't look messy and scrappy on the page. These are all things that really enhance the reading experience. People notice when those things are done badly, so we try to get them right. I say try because, the job of an editor being, terribly hard and thankless is to get things perfect, and of course that never happens. So, in a sense, the invisibility of the work we do is kind of a double-edged sword. Going public is a no-win for most editors because people can spot, or they believe they can spot, when editorial work has been done badly or left unfinished or leaves something to be desired. People can spot structural flaws, and certainly they can spot, typographical errors and that sort of stuff. But the invisibility of the work is inevitable. You've done a good job. Your job is ensuring a book looks whole and seamless and precisely as though nobody had anything to do with it, as though it kind of emerged from the sea, brushing its golden tresses on a clamshell. If you've got an extraneous character that you've got rid of, or you've cut 10,000 words, the aim is that nobody knows that they ever needed to be cut. So not being invisible is a sign of failure in editorial work. And it's functionally impossible for that very reason to ever get credit. You can get blamed a lot, but you can never get credit. You shouldn't be there. This is kind of like, when editors read a review that says such and such was poorly served by their editor, it's kind of like, I think of it like looking at a plane crash and thinking, geez, pilot shouldn't have dived into the tarmac. You've got to look at the black box people. You don't know whether he was having a knife held to his throat by a deranged hostie or not. But, as I said before, this is a time for editors not to be hiding in the burrow thinking it's all thankless and I don't want to expose myself to blame. It's not a time to be pretending we don't exist, and even if we do exist, it's not like we do anything of consequence. So, that's why, a shy, retiring sort like myself is up here banging on, essentially. Just to refer back to for the moment to things I was saying before about the detail end of the process. The copy editing and the proofreading and the really getting things looking just perfect at the end of the process. Because I feel that when we talk about them, they often sound slightly trivial in comparison with structural changes, things that affect pace or plot, or characterisation or whatever. But what I want to say today is that detail stuff goes to the heart of what you might call the editorial mindset. And it sums up what I think is really crucially important about the health and survival of our profession. It's about the insistence that things should be done right. Looking closely, caring about little things, caring about nuance, paying attention to detail, making sure everything seems to sit right and that every little gesture and every bit of dialogue is, right there, what a real person would do. It's about making sure the facts are okay, the spelling's correct and the punctuation's, not looking like an ant's picnic all over the pages, but is in fact there for a purpose. Editors know about these things, we're good at them and we insist on them. And it's good that somebody does that. I think it's a really fine thing to have solid values and high aspirations. It's great that we all feel disappointment when we know that we've fallen short, and to have that as a reason to do a bit better next time. And it's really terrific. I haven't mentioned creative people much because I've been talking about editors, but it's really terrific for creative people, the makers of the things that we love and love to read, to have that kind of expert help, that kind of support in achieving what they set out to do. It's good to have rules, and it's good to have custodians of rules. It's good to have gatekeepers. We don't live in the kind of society, thank God, where those things constitute a prison. They are a frame, and you can build some wonderful things on them.